Informative, educational, objective, inclusive, comprehensive. This is Progress Report. Updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.
Good day and welcome to another episode of Progress Report. My name is Ivan Khanna. This is my lovely co-host Gleneva Hodge, and we have with us in studio today the Honorable Premier Minister of Finance, Minister of Health, Minister of Economic Development, Dr. Ellis Lorenzo Webster. We have a lot to unpack today, so much so that we've removed the table. It can't all fit on the table. There's so much going on in Anguilla. This has been a long time coming, and we're going to get deep into it. It's November.
Yeah.
We have a lot going on in November. If you haven't started as yet, we're only, a few days in. There's still time to join the No Shave November.
Mm-hmm.
Like
That's
the
right.
Premier,
Yes.
myself, and all the other ministers. You're growing out your beards and your mustache to bring awareness to men's mental health issues. We have the March Against Gender-Based Violence coming up.
Yes.
We have Reality versus Mentality,
Yes,
it's a packed month.
I think that's on the
November.
19th of
That's on the
November.
19th of November. There's so much going on, but there's so much more to talk about with the Honorable Premier. So we're going to deep dive.
Yes. I hope you gentlemen are not just not shaving, but also donating that
yes,
money
yes.
that you would have saved at the barber. Barbers, they'll be back.
Yes. Barbers will be back.
And they still have to do their shape-ups. So I'm hoping that you're also donating that money
Yes.
to the Gender Affairs Unit.
Yes,
because
you literally
that's
just
really-
walk into Gender Affairs and you could go like you're paying the barber, and if you tip your barber, tip Gender Affairs too.
That's right.
And this money goes towards mental health awareness, fighting mental health in men's issues, whatever programs they have coming out of that.
Yep.
All right. So, since we're talking about mental health, I think we should start with health. What do you want to start with?
Yeah, let's start there.
Let's start with health. Premier.
Yes.
Health. There's so much going on. I am privy to a bit of information. But let's just ask the rolling questions out there. We see the new dialysis unit coming along.
Yes.
When is plans to move into that?
Well, we had a little bit of a slowdown, but we're getting there. We already got funding to equip it with some new dialysis units.
Okay.
And, certainly, kidney health is... that is getting worse in Anguilla as one of the, chronic non-communicable diseases.
Yes.
And, we had COVID, and so everything got turned to trying to save lives and livelihoods, and so we fell back a little on the NCDs, but we're picking back up.
Definitely.
And we're making sure that we can take care of the people there.
Okay.
Just want to talk a little bit about the mental health and suicide prevention, which is the no shave, and so you may see a little fuzz around my face,
I noticed the new look when I walked in.
yes. I say it's the James Bond, Sean Connery look.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But you know what scared me, though, is a couple of years back, I learned that the stats show that 1 out of every 5 students at the high school had contemplated committing suicide.
Yes.
And that really scared me. For a small population where we have so much support systems, we thought, the church, the community, parents, family members, and that one. And so that's why I decided that, we need to bring this awareness. Mental health is very important. And sometimes we kind of look at the physical health as being more important, but mental health has to be taken seriously. You see people walking around who have some issues with that, and also one of the things in health that we have done is we budgeted for a psychiatrist. We want to have a resident psychiatrist in Anguilla.
Lovely.
Because we feel it's necessary that we can have someone here on the ground, because right now it's done virtually. There's a psychiatrist, either was in Antigua before, now in the BVI, and that's where we get our psychiatric care. And I think that in this day and age, in 2022, we need to have a resident psychiatrist.
So, quickly, because I know you're going to jump right here. When will that person be on island?
Well, we've been recruiting now since the beginning of the year. So we haven't found one who has, accepted the job as yet.
Okay.
And psychiatrists now are very rare.
That's true.
We're trying all over, the UK, the US, the rest of the Caribbean. We're finding that the psychiatrists are in high demand.
Yes.
And so we've been looking. And we've even gone outside of the region, towards India and things like that. But, it would be good to find someone who understands the culture and the psyche of the people and the region. And so that is where we're concentrating. But at this point in time, we need somebody competent who can be here to take care of our people.
Yes.
And as we speak about having a resident psychiatrist, what is the current status of the psychiatric ward at the hospital? Because I think there was some shifting when we had COVID and the COVID ward became into this. So what is the current status of the psychiatric ward?
So what we did, and what was done is this psychiatric ward was essentially cut in half.
Right.
Okay.
And so half was maintained for psychiatric patients, and the other half was converted into the isolation unit. So we had 10 beds in there, and that is still the case. Although the goal is that where the dialysis unit now being constructed, that the rest of that would be converted into an isolation unit, and then we will reconfigure these full psychiatric ward back into mental health. We'll upgrade it and make sure that we cater for those patients who have mental health issues.
Okay, that's excellent. Well, while I took some pictures recently, I saw that the pad for the MRI machine is poured and ready.
That's correct.
What's the update there?
So we, with the Richard Schultz Family Foundation, which they own Aurora, donated an MRI machine. And the MRI machine is in Dallas, Texas. It's upgraded. It's ready to come. It's been ready for a while, but we had some shipping issues.
Okay.
One is it's 58 feet in a container. And because of the delicate nature of it, it has to be rolled onto a ship. It can't be lifted like a usual container is lifted and put on and lifted off. So that's a roll on, roll off. And that took us a while with the help of Ms. Sheila Haskins at Tropical to find a ship that can do that. There's a ship coming out of Jacksonville that goes to Puerto Rico that would be able to do that. Everything was set, and then Hurricane Ian came, and that slowed down the process of getting into Jacksonville, Florida. But now we're looking at about mid-December to get that to happen. It'll be rolled onto the ship, taken to Puerto Rico, rolled onto a barge, and then brought to Anguilla. And so that is the plan to get it here. But the pad is done.
Yes.
And the pad was also paid for by Richard Schultz Family Foundation, and the electrical works, which cost over $50,000 US just to put in an electrical connection.
Yes.
But because of this delicate machine, it had to be a special one that was done by Rogers Electric, and that was paid for by Robert Seamus. He is was a visitor to Anguilla, has a villa down at Four Seasons. And so actually he should have been coming in town today, so we thank him. We thank everybody who has contributed and who will contribute to getting the MRI machine here. We also have a promised donation from Gary and Connie Sharp. They've been coming to Anguilla for a while. They help with a CT scanner that's there. They are helping us with some of the storage fees and to top up the helium, which is necessary for the MRI machine.
Okay, so Premier, whenever I drive through that back gate at the Princess Alexandra Hospital, it seems like there's a drastic contrast. Like the back seem very modern because you have the dialysis unit, there's this concrete place, then right next to it you have where the MRI machine is gonna go, but then you have some wood and you have our hospital there. Like forward thinking, is there a need for an upgraded facility overall?
Oh, definitely. You got to have a modern, state-of-the-art facility to provide healthcare.
Okay.
Right now, where fiscal constraints are there, but after Hurricane Irma, given the damage that there was, most of the roof was damaged. That was replaced. A lot of the hospital was upgraded, maternity ward,
Right.
the wards themselves, the lab space, the A&E or emergency room. So a lot has been put into it, and so it's fit for purpose at this time. But as we move along, the facilities and we got the operating room was also upgraded, but we have to have a state-of-the-art facility.
Right.
It's necessary for people as our population grows, as access to better medical care is necessary.
Right.
And you think about it, we send a lot of patients overseas for treatment.
Yeah.
At some point, we have to look into keeping those here, having the services provided here. So one of the things that we've also put into our budget calls for this coming year is specialty care, so having specialists, and we are looking into providing the funding for that. So a lot of people are concerned that the GST is it's a burden to the people, but the goals of the goods and service tax is that we have a predictable revenue stream, so we know what we can get, so we can do things like healthcare for those 70 years and older, that we can provide that, and that we can consider specialty care, because then we know what's going to be coming in.
Right.
And so far, I know you'll probably get into it later, but the GST, it's meeting the target that we had.
Right.
So we were looking at about 29 million for this year. It has to make about 80 million over a year. But given when we started the 1st of July, right now it's raised about 28 million by November. So we're looking at that we'll meet the target. But that money, it's not to pay civil servant salaries. It's not to, fill anybody's pockets. It's to do the things that are essential.
Yes.
And one of the essential things is to provide health care and to provide access and affordable health care to the people of Anguilla.
Excellent.
That was a mouthful. and I think you've touched on quite a number of areas that I think I want to go and dig a little deeper on.
Certainly.
So let's start with, we speak about the funding that exists through the GST and what is predictable and what you hope to be able to do with the funds that are coming from that. And one of which being providing free health care for the elderly. And I know we spoke about that the last time you were here.
Correct.
How close are you to seeing that become a reality? When can elders expect that they can get free healthcare? And I know, just to back up a bit and to refresh your memory, I think the last time you were here, we spoke about whether or not you'd have to do it in a phased approach, or whether you can go ahead and do it. So whether it means that it is free medication first and then expand into other areas. What is that looking like now?
Actually looking better than we thought. We got an actuary, same actuary that did the Social Security scheme, who did the Public Service Pension Fund actuarial studies, looked at the information, and based on the preliminary report, we haven't got the final yet, but based on the preliminaries that they have submitted, it looks like we should be able to do what we want in terms of the medicines, diagnostics, and hospital services at once, so all at once.
Okay.
And that is what we want to do. In terms of secondary and tertiary care, if they have to go overseas, we haven't had those numbers put in yet to determine what that will cost.
Okay.
But the plan is that we'd like to do this by the beginning of 2023. Now, it may drift off a little bit by a month or so because we have to make sure we get the final report. We have to make sure that we get it's already in the medium-term economic and fiscal plan, which has to go to the UK for them to approve it, then in the budget. Right. So, we're still waiting on those processes to occur. So it may be off by a month or two at the most, but I can tell you that in 2023, it's going to come. And it's certainly, that's not soon enough. We wanted to do this from day one when we came in, but we were told that we could not advance unfunded policies. Yes. And we couldn't at that time afford to do it because based on the cost. But now we know that we can do it and we'll get it done.
So on that, before we even go into one of the other things, sorry.
No, this is you.
We're on this one
again.
She's digging today,
She's digging today. But past podcast, I forgot to let everybody know this is Gleniva Hodges' show. This has nothing to do with me. I'm just part of the cast. I just do what she tell me. She asked for the premiere to be here, and ta-da! He's here.
So, when we speak about medication for the elderly, and we're looking forward to this in the first quarter of 2023.
Right.
We know that there has been a consistent cry from a lot of persons that medication on the island and at the pharmacy, the government, the health authorities pharmacy, let's go there. The health authorities pharmacy, they're a lot of times out of medication. So persons are having to go to private pharmacies to fill those prescriptions. How does that free healthcare, free medication for elderly, how does that play into if I'm a person over 70? What is the age? Are you looking at
70 and older?
And older.
Yes.
So I'm a person over 70. I have a prescription for some medication, and the hospital does not have this medication. I have to fill it at one of the private ones. Will I be reimbursed? Will I be given a voucher for this? Or is it that the funds are only looking at covering medication and healthcare under the Health Authority of Anguilla? And then we'll speak a little bit more about what that what that structure is also going to look like.
Well, I mean, that would be cleaner, easier to manage, easier to understand the cost. But just like it is right now for persons who have, say, like a medical card, if they go to the health authority pharmacy and the medication is not there, they get it at a private pharmacy. That's usually paid for also. Right now by social development, the goal would be that that's covered. Because the goal is that we don't want someone who's 70 or older passing up on the medication because they couldn't get it at the hospital pharmacy. And so one of the things that we want to make sure that we discussed at the OECS PPS meeting that I was at last week is that if there are certain medications that say Anguilla as one of the member states uses, that we can also get the PPS to procure that specifically for Anguilla. Usually the PPS is pooled pharmaceuticals. All the 9 member states pay into it. But because right now we're doing that anyway, we have to get special medications from certain places other than the PPS because only Anguilla doctors are prescribing them per se. We can also now use the PPS to do that. So we would have more access. The other thing that we want to do is to make sure that we're paying up our bill to the OECS PPS, because one of the things that slows down access to the medication is if there's a bill, we haven't paid it, then that delays the getting the medication, or the order is stopped. And then the other issues of back orders. They're also going to a digital platform. So if we know we use X amount of medication in a month, then we can pre-order the amount that we need rather than running out. Okay. And the other issue is, what seems to come up sometimes is expired medication. We want to make sure we get it if we order in advance, then we get it so we're not you're having delays and the medication coming. Now we have shipping issues, supply issues. But if we know well in advance, we get that medication, so we know that we have enough lead time where they don't expire while they're warehoused with us, that we paid up our bills, so we get our orders in time. And so that's the PPS, I think, is really doing a good job now of trying to modernize the whole system.
Okay. And just for those who may be unaware, and the first episode that we did with you was very enlightening when we learned that yes, our medication is bought in bulk.
That's right.
With the other member states of the OECS.
Correct.
PPS stands for
the pool procurement system. Before it was the pool pharmaceutical service. Yeah.
Okay.
But now it's now becomes pool procurement, because we're also now going to procuring lab supplies, reagents, and lab equipment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's nice.
nice. So we don't necessarily order medication individually. Anguilla, the Health Authority of Anguilla, we don't necessarily go out and say, oh well, I need to get ibuprofen, and I just go out and I purchase that. That comes through the system of the OECS.
Yes.
You order in bulk, and then we get.
Unless there's specific medications that we need that may be brand name, or that that we need specifically for Anguillan patients. If you could think about it, like dialysis patients.
Okay.
They may need specific types of medication. Then the health authority might buy those from a different supplier because they need them quicker, or they are specific. But now what we can do is, for economies of scale, we can get the PPS to order them for us, because they're going to get a lower rate
right.
because of the they buy in bulk.
Yes, and this PPS, where would the supplies and medications be? Because if they are in bulk, they come to one place and then they're disseminated. So
so they usually come to St. Lucia.
Okay.
And they are very specific about, you worry about whether the medications are efficacious, if they are fake, those types of things. They have a very strict system of testing. They use COFA, in Trinidad to do some testing. They also have another means of testing to make sure the drugs are safe, that they're efficacious, and they're real, even though some of them come from India, Israel, and elsewhere. And there are a few pharmacy manufacturers that they have found that the drugs do not meet the right criteria, and so they basically blacklist those.
Okay, nice. So that risk is absorbed.
Oh, definitely. And they are very strict about following those protocols. And if there's any question at all, they do the evaluation of the medication, and then they will basically, not get from that manufacturer anymore.
That's awesome. I often stress this, and I think this is a good point for me to stress it again. Government isn't just making ad hoc decisions. There's guidelines, policies, and procedures that has to be followed. Just want to double back real quickly, because I don't know if you realized.
Did you get permission to ask that question?
Can I have some permission?
Go right ahead. I'm trying to keep my question at the top of my mind, and sometimes we align, and you may very well just ask the same question.
No, I don't think I asked the same question. I just wanted to remind the premier that this is actually, if you look straight into the camera, it goes straight to the premier office. That's the wish hole right there.
Oh, that's the portal.
Yes. That's the portal there, and whatever you say in there, the premier hears it on the other end. So
this does not work for the premier.
I'm not sure you'll find out though. So just thinking that, based on everything that you've just said, I just have this vision in my head of Anguilla having a state-of-the-art hospital. I think medical tourism is something that we can tap into.
Yes.
And on a number of different fronts. I met a guy when I used to be affiliated with one of the charter boats that brought his dad to Anguilla every week for dialysis because it was cheaper.
Yes.
He could actually get an appointment, and he said his father enjoyed getting the little saltier to come on the board, have his dialysis, and then go back home. I think there's a need for specialty services and specialty care, like you said, but I think that Anguilla can open up so much more to the Caribbean, to the US, and everywhere else. I know Dr. Ola from UK Banks Devon, she spoke into that little wish hole.
Yes.
Did you get it?
and she has, we spoke about a facility, a mental health care facility, you know.
Yes.
I see the need for these things. Do you think where the current site is, we can have a state-of-the-art hospital facility there, or would this be some place that we have to look at government either use some land that it has, acquire and build a facility, and then that probably be transformed into like a specialist area, have your dialysis there, have your MRI stuff there, that type of thing where the current site is? This is just me thinking.
I think it has to be a different site.
Okay.
And you know, the reason why I say that is you had the cottage hospital.
Right.
It outlived its
time.
usefulness because it was constrained by space and the ability to expand.
Right.
Similarly, in that area, that would be the case. You got the school, Campus B there, you got other facilities close by, and you got Aurelia Kelly on the other side of it, and you got Pastor Philip Church on the other side. So that would be, it has to be another, especially if you're going to medical tourism. Yeah. And the reason for that is the facility has to attract persons from the outside.
Right.
State-of-the-art facility. It has to be set up like that. One of the things that I also envisioned was that around that facility you would have luxury villas. Right. And those luxury villas would be provided, would do whether it's post-op recovery care, whether it would be a recuperation villas. I mean, that's what I envision. So you would have, and I would like for Anguillians to own those. Right. And so persons could get treated in the medical facility, and then they go right across the parking lot, and they now have nurses there that can take care of their, if they were post-op, take care of that. If they were cancer patients, taking care of them during their chemotherapy or radiation therapy. If they're dialysis patients that, they're hooked up to the machine, they may even be doing peritoneal dialysis where you don't have to be at the machine, you just have your bags transferring the dialysate. So these are things that I envision we can do, that I have said can happen, and we have to have the specialists here that can do that. And I don't think that we need to have to send our patients to Panama, Colombia, Cayman, Trinidad for those services. If we have the facility here with the equipment here, we have the doctors here. I mean, who wouldn't want to come to Anguilla, if that is available? Yeah. And so one of the things that I have suggested, which right now there's a policy, health authority policy doesn't allow, is the doctors that work for the health authority are not allowed to have private practices. Mm-hmm. I feel that it is necessary that if you have doctors working for the public service, it cuts down on what we have to pay them if they can have a private practice on the side, because that way you can supplement the income, you can attract people here, then you can get more than one doctor of the same specialty. Because right now one of the things we have problems with surgeons and keeping them, they don't want to be on call 365 days a year, 24/7. And so you need to have another one that they can share call with. Right. And that's one of the things we've done now with our budget, is that we've also budgeted for a second general surgeon.
I love it.
Because over the past 8 years, we keep rotating general surgeons who last a year or 2 years. Nobody stays for that long term anymore.
Yeah, because I just can't imagine just having to be on call 365, like
24/7.
24/7. Anything could happen. Like
that's right. Yeah. You burn out. It's really it's difficult to do that. Yes.
So, okay, one more.
No, we're gonna stick up in.
Okay.
What can I say? We're at her mercy, right?
Yeah, you best believe.
Just because we were right here on the topic, and
but aren't we at gender equality now?
social justice and gender equity. And as I am the sole person in here, I have to remember that I have to speak up a little bit more. Otherwise my voice may be drowned out. So social justice. But while we're on the topic of having to send persons to Trinidad, to Colombia, to Cayman or Panama or wherever it is.
Yes.
I know when we spoke earlier in the year, you said that we had already exceeded our overseas medical treatment budget.
Yes.
I think from in March of this year.
That's correct.
Where are we now? So we exceeded it in March. Where are we? We're now at the end of the year, November. What are our numbers looking like for overseas medical treatment?
Over $2 million, and what we have to do is we have to take money from elsewhere.
Okay.
And that happens every year, but this year it seems even more so that that we persons who get sick and we can't treat them here, they go to the hospital, and then you have to do social development, and we have to find the money. So we have to move it around to take it, because we're not going to let somebody sit here and die. We give them that opportunity to get treated and to come back to us, and that's what the family members want and need, and that's what we as a society have to cater for. But that takes money out of another place where it would be considered to be necessary also. So then we have to make cuts here to do that. So yeah, and even it doesn't matter how much we budget for medical treatment overseas, we're going to exceed it every year without fail.
Okay. So the question is there a provision for persons, they go overseas, they get treatment, hopefully they come back, and they're again contributing members of the society. Is there a way, provision for them to help to pay back some of that bill? Is that something that is done?
Yes, it is. Usually they or their family member signs that they would pay back, some kind of a payment plan. It's not always honored, I must say that. And it would be good because if you can pay back some or all of it, it then helps the next person. But most of the time, it's like, the virgins who, they would, or the lepers, I can't remember the exact phrases and terminology, but you get taken care of and then you walk away. That's not the way to do it. It should be where you then, if you can, you pay back so that you can help the next person that comes along.
And something. Just needs to be something.
I mean,
I think so.
$25 a month, something to show that I may not be in a position to give more than.
Right, but you appreciate what was done for you by the country. Yeah.
How far does that document that is signed? How far is that taken? If persons are not honoring that, in terms of what is the scope that you have to be able to say, can you say, I know government doesn't want to be harsh. Government doesn't want to be.
I know where you're going with that. But if you think about it, the same thing applies in persons who get scholarships from government. They go overseas and some stay out because and they don't come back, even though they signed a bond that they would return. So it's and government doesn't go after it. I mean, government has the right to pursue these things in the legal system, but it's difficult, to do that.
Yes.
And so I don't want to encourage people to just come to government, get and go and not pay back. But I think it should be part of your duty. Yes, a civic duty, just your conscience should say. Yeah. You were helped in your time of need. Now it may come a point when government has 2 or 3 people sitting in a hospital and can't find the funds to get them all taken care of, then what do? You have a triage system, or you have a system where you pull straws. I mean, this is the types of things that I think we need to have. I mean, we will do our best, of course, to try to help everybody, but sometimes you can't. I mean, look at our administering power right now. I just saw this weekend where they're saying that they're going to cut their spending by $50 to $60 billion coming up. But these are who we rely on when we get into trouble to help us, and people are concerned when we try to help ourselves that we shouldn't. I mean, this is the thing. You can't always go hat in hand, because at some point you're going to get turned back empty.
And I think that turning back started to happen. It was a little bit subtle, but it was happening. It was happening because that's the reality of things. Because they have a lot dealing with. I mean, COVID spared no one. The global financial crisis spared no one. The rising fuel costs spares no one. Inflation spares no one.
That's right.
So now when we are making efforts to pay our way, I actually, and persons can take this however they please, but I actually feel proud that when I go in the shop now, I don't even check my receipt. I know that I have to pay GST, but I know where it's going. You're talking about free healthcare for the seniors. I mean, we're seeing a number of things happening that couldn't be funded, because when you're going hand in hand, how are you going to pay for this?
Exactly.
Because at the same time, it would be prudence on our administering power to say, hey, we got to hold some for us too. Because the taxpayers of the UK have been doing this forever. Anyway, we can talk repatriations, we can talk this, that. We're still a colony. We could say whatever we want. But I don't see those folks from the UK coming here to work.
Right.
But the Anguillans are free to go. Sign up for national health insurance, see a doctor as they please, pay the taxes there without any regard, live, and then it's nothing. And now we have to pay our way here, and we still hear from time to time a little bit of noise. Say all of that to say, national health insurance in Angola, is that something that will be a reality? Can it work?
It will. It can work. And in fact, we've started those consultations. Yes, we have had Dr. Castanet, who has been involved with this throughout the Caribbean, was here discussing national health insurance. Remember, there was a pilot study that was done in 2014 to 2015 that was funded by Social Security under the chairmanship of Alkin Rogers. Dr. Lanny Hobson was leading that program, and the numbers were actually looking good. The money that was put into the program, it showed that this was doable.
Right.
But then after the election of 2015, it was terminated. But now we feel that it is possible. We have met with the private insurers here in Anguilla. We have met with different groups to discuss it. And it's just a matter of, with the help of experts, finding the best way to integrate it into the system. Because at some point we feel it's necessary that everybody should be covered with that national health insurance.
That's what I'm
and that when they go to the doctor, or they go to the facility, the clinic, or they go to the hospital, they're not worrying that they got to come up with the money up front,
right?
Or they just know that they've paid into the system if they have a job, and just like now they're paying premiums, or those who are vulnerable, that they are covered by the system, the young and the very old, and therefore you can go and get your care done, and know that nobody is sending you a bill. Or that you have to pay up front before you can get served. And so that's what it takes. A caring administration, that's what you want to do. You want to take care of your people.
Now that you said it, can I one more? Go right. Yes, I got 2 back to back. So on the previous episode, we had Mrs. Monifa Brooks-Combs from the Public Service Pension Fund. And she was talking about insurance to a certain extent. and she was talking about we really came to grips with the fact that there are a lot of unprotected, unpensioned persons out there in our community.
Correct.
The construction workers. You have your
hospitality,
unestablished
workers within government.
Within government too.
Right.
We have the hospitality industry.
Right.
And if we go back a little further, we remember from the conversation that we had with the Minimum Wage Committee, Mr. Dr. Glenville, Mr. Glenville Hodge? Yes, he spoke about workers' comp, construction, all these things that seem to be kind of like missing. Will the umbrella of something like national health insurance protect these folks that right now have nothing?
It is possible, and as we expand it, I mean, the initial thing is to get health care covered, but you can extend that to workmen's compensation, but that could also be done through pension funds. Social Security could also take that as long for unemployment insurance, because that is one of the the recommendations from the actuary right now, is that since Social Security was asked to help in 2017, that was basically, one that was a non-contributory, because nobody had contributed a percentage of the income to unemployment insurance, but that was covered. During COVID, the first 3 months, Social Security covered the persons that qualified, had 52, paid weeks. They recommend that there should be a percentage that goes in for unemployment insurance. Well, with that, you can also do workman's comp insurance. I mean, right now you have sickness benefits, so if somebody is sick, they can get paid. But there's nothing, the workman's comp included in Social Security right now. But that is necessary because we have, construction workers, we have others who they do jobs that are dangerous.
That's
people who climb, you climb Angleck pole, you fall, you get electrocuted. I mean, these are things that you're gonna be out for a while longer than sickness benefit is gonna cover.
That's true.
And so these are definitely, as we modernize our society, as we get the vision of protecting our people. Then all of these, benefits will have to be added in as we go along. And if you see that in developed countries, and so that's where we want to take Anguilla. Anguilla is small, so it's going to seem like it's more of a burden to cover. But we have a very high-skilled, intelligent population that we need to take care of them as we go along. And certainly as we get to renewable energy, there are going to be issues that come up there that we need to cater for as you go along in terms of it's going to be high-skilled, high-paying jobs. You got to make sure also that you protect them. It's like, when your Ferrari is out there, you got a higher skilled mechanic than me with my little, Daihatsu,
So let me do this thing that I often have to do on this show. In case you're wondering, I do not own a Ferrari. Government has not bought me a Ferrari. How else will they spend that? we don't have to clear things up here.
I see.
Because then we'll end up on air someplace else. Soundbite saying that the government. Would you imagine them bought the PRO of Ferrari?
You're talking about Monday morning?
Maybe.
Monday morning quarterback.
Monday breakfast club. Yeah, all that stuff. We have to clear that up before the song.
I got you.
But I totally understand that, Premier, and I agree with you. I'm loving what I'm hearing because from the outside looking in, folks would think, boy, no, nothing is happening. But I get the impression that there's a lot of cleanup that has been happening in health. Is that the case?
It's like most days I feel like a sanitation worker.
Oh, wow.
I just want to, I say that tongue in cheek, but the thing about it is when we came in, what we found and what we've had to deal with and we have to fix since we came in Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there that you can call it with a four-letter word, but there's a lot there that we have to take care of.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of energy to do that. So we've got the Attorney General chambers, the drafting young ladies in there are just working hard for us to put in place the structures that are necessary. I just want both of you to know here that, people talk about and they say, oh, this administration doesn't talk independence and stuff like that. But there's no way you can go independent if you don't have the structure in place, you have the framework in place so that you can function as an independent country. The people are not ready for that, and that is the fault of governments.
Yes.
We should have been doing this from 56 years ago, after the revolution. We should have made that leap to where we can have independent-minded people wanting to be independent, but taking care of each other. Because a lot of decisions have been made in previous administrations that has put us in the position we're in, where we're financially unstable, where we, just skim the surface. I remember the first day, June the 30th of 2020, when I went to the governor's office, and I was sworn in. Yes. So I know that there's some persons who said they don't know, but I was sworn in as the Premier of Anguilla, because I couldn't get the information that I was given unless I was sworn in, and I had this obligation to the people. And when Governor Tim Foy showed me the information, I said, but Governor, we've just been skimming the surface for many years, and most of the time it's underwater. And he said, that's exactly what the people of Anguilla don't get, is that in terms of, you go up, you go down, but most of the time, because of decisions, some external shocks, but a lot of it, decisions made by previous administrations have kept us underwater. And that is one of the things that I said. I have an obligation to the people of Anguilla to make sure that we get to a point where we're financially stable and that our economy has the ability to progress in an upward trajectory.
Right.
It doesn't have to be straight up like a rocket, but it has to be that incrementally we keep going up and up. Because that's the only way that we can pass on this country to the future generation and say that we did our best. And I want to be able to say, to sleep at night, or when I'm out of office, to say that I did my best for the people of Anguilla that I love and care for.
Appreciate that. Go ahead.
I have refrained.
Why?
Just in general, because one of the things and one of my goals with Progress Report is to ensure that we understand in totality how government works. And, we say this all the time, that government is the entire institution. It is more than just the elected persons. And I will tell you, I'm listening, and there are questions that are on the tip of my tongue that I'm trying to find a balance to ensure that we don't go down a partisan political road. But it would be remiss of me to not ask, because if we're going to say that in the past these things happen, we operated on a boom bust type economy, where a lot of times we were in more bust than boom. And you're now telling me that the policies, the legislation that your administration is putting into being, how do you ensure the longevity of such so that we don't regress should administration change? How do we ensure that these things go beyond the administration? And I really don't mean to sound like I'm preaching, and I'm just going to put it out there. It's a thing that has bothered me the most for the longest while, is the fact that we don't have a national development plan. How do you see a national development plan playing into ensuring that these policies and legislation ensure the long-term, the longevity of our financial stability, and where are we in terms of instituting such?
And that's an excellent question, and that's what we try to, put the guardrails in place so that an administration, different administration, can't just come in and say, okay, we're going to change all the policies that were done in the previous administration and go to EXCO and get approval, go to the House, get it passed, and then assented to by the administering power. There's no way you can really guard against that fully. However, it's funny that you just brought up about a national development plan, because I just had this discussion last week in the Ministry of Finance. And one of the things is we need to find, we were told, Ministry of Economic Development actually, and let me correct that because they're two different ministries. I'm just the minister for both. And I was told that this was put out in the department and the ministry, and we don't have the local capacity to do a national development plan for that long term. I think it should be 50 years, even if it's shorter. So what we are looking at is to get outside consultants to help us with developing and devising that plan for Anguilla. And we've thought about United Nations agencies and different agencies, UK agencies, regional agencies that can help with it. And we're looking at what it will cost to fund that. So it's so timely that you brought that up when we just had this discussion last week that we have to have a national development plan. And this has been proposed for years. I mean, back in 2010 when Mr. Hughes became chief minister, it was proposed we should get a national development plan. We've never gotten to that point where you get it down on paper and then you get it through EXCO, get it to the House, and now it becomes your blueprint. It's like a plan for a house. Now you can't change it. Yeah. That's what we need to do. Yeah. And you rightfully said that, because once you put that in place, then we have to follow that strategically to get to it. And in that national development plan has to be independence for Anguilla. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it has been, anyone listening.
Yeah.
Let's just call the elephant in the room. Anyone listening knows of my political past.
You have a political past.
I do. We don't speak about it, but yes. But it's one of those things that I felt very strongly about.
You guys are made for each other.
It's one of the things that I felt very strongly about, and I think it came to the fore for me when I did a course with UE, and one of my lecturers, he was from the CDB.
Yes.
And he said to me, he's no longer with the CDB. I think he's returned home. But he said one of the things that he would really like to see is that Anguilla has a national development plan. And so I know at the time that he was there, this was a few years ago, that he was saying, he's certain the CDB would be willing to offer assistance. So if you've not gone there, and maybe that's where you start to look at. Mr. Hope, I don't know if you ever tune in, but if you are, hi.
Hi, Mr. Hope. I like the last name.
Yes.
Hope is necessary.
But it's funny that you would say that, because actually I wouldn't know that they're listening. We have folks from the ECCB that actually listens to the show. We've gotten some feedback from them as well. So it's interesting to note. I don't know if it's happening to you as yet, Gleniva.
No, Ivan, no.
It's not happening to you. Like, I walk in the gas station and people approach me. I'm listening to you guys and I like this episode. You should do this. You should do that next. And I'm like, it's Gleniva's show, but I'll take it back to that. But people are listening. I don't want to sound laughter and call it an enlightening happening, but people are coming to the knowledge of how government actually functions and what's possible.
Which means that we're doing our job.
I think we're doing our job. I think we're getting there. I think it's important because for a long time, ignorance is bliss. and we think that governance is going to the polls and then just something happened and then we go back to the polls. No, that's not it. There's a lot that happens in between there. Every 5 years so much happens. Every 5 years you have 5 different graduating classes that's entering the workforce are looking on to tertiary education. You have 5 different classes entering the preschool and primary school system. Right. Like there's consistent growth and movement.
Yes.
And a lot of people need to understand when you're speaking economy, these are the tenets of it that just keeps walking like an engine. The pistons in the engine is just going up and down. But that's how we have the movement. And if we're not careful to consider these in a lot of our deliberations and actions, then we would have inevitably screwed generations to come.
Yeah.
And when you say that, Premier, this is what came to mind, because I remember a conversation just today that you know, a young man in his 20s like had no knowledge of the things that happened before, and like what you can't change, and you have to break it down for him and tell him like, listen, okay, this has been the case. Not because you see government trying to communicate. Now, have you heard about this stuff before? And he said no. I said, why? And he couldn't answer. But there's a platform now,
yes,
where everybody can come. And we've even extended an invitation to the members of the opposition. Most recently at Mr. Kyle Hodges' opening of his new facility in Island Harbour. He asked me about it again. So of course you're invited to come. He tell me he'll think about it. He'll make some time. I guess he's a little bit busy now with the lunch. But it's not just for the Minister of Government. It's not just for the elected. Persons have been reaching out to us now and wanting to be on show from the different departments because they see it's a growing platform. And we want to continue that.
Yes.
We definitely want to continue that. And I thank you, Premier, for giving the support from the ministry to get this up and running, to get this going, because it was very instrumental in getting us mobilized. And I know we have some support going forward. Saying all that to say, back to health, right? Because we haven't gone out from health as yet.
We have not. So here's what I'll do for you. You know, like the talk show host. You know, here's what I'll do for you. We're gonna wrap up on health. And for our listening audiences, we're not gonna just leave it drop. We're gonna come back for a part 2.
Okay.
And that's where we'll touch on finance and economic development, because there is. I'll let you finish with health. Because there is something that you mentioned that I really want to bring you back up on, and it has to do with your receipt at the grocery store. And I'm saying that so that our listeners know that I'm not just gonna let that one slide.
Okay.
So let's go.
Not a problem. In other words, we'll get into the GST and all that stuff in a bit. But while we are still here on health, COVID is not gone.
No.
We've had 13 cases now.
Well, we reached 27.
27 recently.
In one group, actually. Yes. So that was an outbreak.
That was an outbreak.
Yeah. But it's down to 13 that are positive.
Positive. And with the onset of that, we're going into the cold and flu season.
Yes.
The busiest part of our tourism season. The coldest part of the year. We have the wettest part of the year, because November been one for the records.
Yes.
And then you have RSV.
Yep.
So we have all these respiratory concerns and all these things that we've been battling with and dealing with. You've said something, Premier, that every time I talk to a good friend of mine, Mr. Roger Smith, he listens to the show every last episode, right? He said, Ivan, you don't understand how powerful that statement from the Premier was. And he always reminds me of when you said we have to develop an appetite for risk. He always reminds me of that. I think we've not only developed the appetite for risk in terms of opening our economy and stuff and managing what has been thrown at us. Let's be honest. Collectively, Angola has managed and fared well, if we're being honest.
Right.
It was tough.
Yeah. And we lost 12 people through COVID.
We lost 12 through COVID. It was tough.
Yeah. Yes,
we've lost a few more to other things, accidents and otherwise that could be avoided.
That's right.
Some just sickness. Some had it's been tough mentally for everyone in Anguilla. I wouldn't take anyone out of this bunch. But for some reason, I feel this glimmer of hope. It feels like I am looking forward to 2023 and the end of the year with a bit of excitement. Maybe I'll get a reservation at
I got there. I got there. We begged for that, but we got there.
I don't know if you had a chance to eat at this famous restaurant when you come around the corner in West End as yet.
Not yet.
No, not yet.
I couldn't get in.
I can't get in at the premiere, but I'm pointing no elbows, but somebody's bragging that she got in. Maybe the family connections.
They're related.
I don't know. I'll leave that alone.
A former employee begged for a little space. I'll leave it at that.
There you go. That's right.
But back to what I'm saying, I'm feeling this sense of hope.
Yes.
Is that transferable? Do you feel that, like, with all that we've been through, I'm not looking back anymore?
No. Can't look back. And just think about it. We came through a lot, as you said. COVID was right there upon us. The economy was closed. People were not working.
Yeah.
People went out and took the vaccine so that we'd have a way that we could protect ourselves and protect each other.
Right.
That allowed us to open up the country some and let visitors in because that's 85% of our economy is tourism, and that helped. People could go to restaurants, they could go on tours, they could go to the beach, they could come to the hotels, and then over time they were able to interact with us.
Right.
And so that developing that appetite for risk is one. As a doctor, we have to have that because we're like a firefighter. You have to throw yourself right in the middle of the fray to save people.
Right.
And that's what we did. The CMO, the doctors and nurses at the hospital, the frontline workers, immigration, customs, they didn't shy away and say, I'm not going to work because somebody might come in off the plane or the boat and get me sick. They went out. Hospitality workers, those at the front desk, those working as housekeepers, those, was there. And everybody, threw in their lot and said, for this country, I'm going to make that sacrifice. So that's why there's hope to me, because Anguillians didn't shy away.
Yes.
They jumped right in.
Yes.
They did what they had to do. They had the confidence that this administration, along with the healthcare workers, Ministry of Health, would make the right decisions to protect them.
Yes.
And that's what you have to do as a people.
Yeah.
So you might listen to people, talk about you're incompetent, you're ignorant, you're a dummy, and all of that stuff. But when the majority of the people say, I'm going to follow you because I know that you have our best interests at heart, that's what has saved this country and brought it through many different trials and tribulations.
Yeah.
Back when they were saying, the British said, we're going to move you to Demerara because Anguilla was a barren land and you wouldn't survive here. The people said, we'd rather stay here and die than to go.
Yes.
Right? That took a sense of will, of determination, that they want this rock as their home, to be where they want to live, to grow up, to raise families, to go and come back. Sometimes that's necessary, to bring that skill that is necessary to keep the people on the right track. So you're correct. I have hope that Anguilla will not only survive but will thrive, and that the people of Anguilla will look back one day and say that just like our forebears in 1967 who got us through what was considered then to be the toughest of times, that in 2020 they made the right decision to get us to this point where we now have an economy that's going in a positive direction. In 2020, the economy dropped to minus 30%. Just think about that. That's a big drop. 30% drop. In 2009, it was negative 16.7. So almost double the decline in the economy that there was in 2010 when Mr. Hubert Hughes came in that we had to deal with.
Right.
And right now we're in positive numbers and going in the right direction.
Yes.
That didn't happen by chance.
Yeah.
With God's help and guidance and the people of Anguilla, the support that they said, we elected you to do the right thing, to look out for us, to care about our well-being. That's why the Anguilla Progressive Movement was elected to lead the country at the time.
Right.
And if the people feel that we're doing a good job, no matter what is said out there on the radio or elsewhere,
yes,
or on social media, in 2025 they'll do the same thing. If they feel we haven't done that and we have failed in the job that they gave us, then I agree.
Yeah.
Don't vote for us.
On that note, we are going to switch gears. Like Gleniva said, I mean, this is part one of a two-part show. We had an interesting, very enlightening update from the Honorable Premier and Minister of Health, Minister of Finance, Minister of Economic Development, the Honorable Dr. Ennis Lorenzo Webster. And we'll be back with part two because we're going to jump into the Ministry of Economic Development and Finance. We're going to talk some things. So be sure to tune in to the next episode of Progress Report, updates and conversations from the Government Information Service.